Καλημέρα και από μένα. Είμαι η Πινελόπη Θεοδωρακάκου, για όσους και όσες δεν με ξέρετε. Είμαι η συνιδρύτρια του Women on Top. Το fireside chat που θα ακολουθήσει θα γίνει στα αγγλικά. So, hi everyone, good morning, thank you for being here. We will be kicking off this day, this event, this conference with a fireside chat with two exceptional women that I'm very honored to have not here with me, but online in this screen in front of me. And we will be talking about gender equality in the corporate world in Iceland and Norway. Really rounding up all the issues that Stella mentioned before, and just kicking off this event with a general discussion about issues. We will try in the time that we have to share insights and best practices, but I will also be asking Sigridur and Anita about challenges and about problems and about what they have seen in their corporate careers and what we can do. So if we could welcome Sigridur. She didn't allow me to try and pronounce her surname, so I will leave it to that. She is the chairman of FKA, and they were a very valuable partner in all this journey that we described in trying and finding out what happens in Norway and Iceland. FKA is the Association of Business Women in Iceland, so welcome. Thank you so much for giving us the time. And Anita is the chair and non-executive director in several growth companies and a member of the European Innovation Council Board. I'm reading all this because your titles are very impressive and I don't want to forget anything. So thank you both for being here. We would love to have you next to me, but this is as good as it gets for now. Sigridur, I would love to start with you and really take a deep dive, because our interest is also, as Stella mentioned before, the challenges. So we can talk all day about best practices and insights, but I want us to start off with challenges. So my first question to you is, what is the greatest challenge or the greatest challenges that women face in the corporate world in Iceland?
Καλημέρα από την Reykjavik, Ισλανδία. Ευχαριστώ πολύ for hosting me, and to my co-fireside chatter, Anita. Hey, come on.
Hi.
Hi. The challenge is the same as always, and it is getting the same opportunities as men. The decision about gender equality has been made in Iceland. I would say that we are in the implementation phase right now. We are constantly working on manifesting equality in every aspect of our society. But if you make a decision without implementation, you're just having an opinion. So a decision needs an action to be realized and manifested. And the enjoyable scenario we're having in Iceland is that we as genders, all genders, we're actually not talking against each other. You versus me. It used to be a bit like that, you know, women against men. But now we're talking together, we. And we're trying to find out, and we're actually trying ways to implement both gender equality and equality on a broader diversity scale. And I will have to say, diversity needs inclusion. You cannot call for diversity in teams, groups, boards, etc., without actively practicing inclusion. So the greatest challenge, it is actually showing each other tolerance and support on this precious path, because not giving up, not being judgmental or putting each other down when the path is rough, when we're not seeing the results we're hoping for, support, tolerance, open communication, understanding, those are crucial elements when listening to different voices and finding creative solutions.
Thank you.
And I will finish, I have one sentence for the dynamics, because the dynamics are changing. Traditionally, you would have work-related pushing forces, and that is known when we're striving and competing for goals in business, versus, I would say, pulling and manifesting and reflecting. So I urge you to try other energy combinations when you're working on the equality path. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that the we element is very important, and I really liked what you said about if you just, have an initiative or a policy and you don't implement it, then it's just an opinion. So I will steal that from you and keep saying that to people. Anita, what about Norway? What are the biggest challenges that women in the corporate world face in Norway?
I think, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm sure that Sigrid and we would love to be in Greece right now. Just outside my window, it's snowing. So a lot of people, specifically outside of Norway, perceive Norway as a very equal country with equal opportunities. But on the private business side, the numbers are really bad. When it comes to equality in politics, when it comes to ensuring a law for female representation on boards, on companies, on stock exchange, when it comes to paternity leaves, there's a lot that's been done from the Norwegian system side the past 30 years. But this is about deep cultural changes, also in Norway. We have to remember that my great-grandmother, she was not allowed to take high school. In Norway, women could not do that until 1882. Men has gone to universities since the 11th century. So there's a lot, there's still, even though there's laws, even though there's been building an understanding and culture for equal opportunities, it will take generations for us to step out of predefined expectations of what a man and a woman can do. And let me just give you the numbers. If you look at the top 200 companies in Norway, 86% of them are run by men. 86%. If you take who is the chairman of the board, or I would say chairwoman, it's only 11% of the top 200 companies in Norway that has female chairwomen. If you look at the entrepreneur side, 7 out of 10 entrepreneurs are men. Only 3 out of 10 are women. So the challenge we are discussing in Norway right now, coming up to the International Female Day, March of 8th, is we're looking at the campaign that the Netherlands have been doing. So on LinkedIn now, there's a lot of women who has changed their name to Peter, because in the Netherlands, they're looking at who is leading the companies on the stock exchange. There are more men named Peter who is running companies than there are female representation. So in Norway, we've translated that into Arne. And the reason to why we are changing that is to keep the awareness of the numbers high for the next generation. We cannot take for granted all the fights for female rights in the private industry, because it is still very vulnerable.
Thank you for that. I was aware of the Peter side of things, but I wasn't aware that it's a campaign now. So thank you for bringing this insight into the conversation. So Sigridur, back to you. Can I ask, if we want to challenge these deep cultural changes that we need to bring about, that Anita mentioned, and if we don't want to wait, and we don't want to wait for generations in order for gender equality to become a reality, also in the private sector as well, do you think that the challenges that you both mentioned can be partly or wholly tackled by gender equality programs within organizations? And if the answer is yes, can we measure this effectively, these programs effectively, their impact, and how?
Yeah, well, please don't wait. Please start instantly. You can start this morning, actually. Just make a decision and start. Be a role model, that's the best way to do it. Others will follow. To answer the question, a gender equality program surely helps and supports the path of equality. It means that you make a promise to the society to implement ways, structures, methods that institutions and companies can and will use for this path. They will give you a measurable overview of results. So it's kind of a milestone-based tool to guide a society through changes. Mm-hmm. And we are lucky in Iceland, we have been using this for almost or over a decade. And it really helps. And it helps us. Anita was talking about the private sector. You know, the private sector is always the last, you know, because, money involved. We also have other good measurements that can help us, like the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, the UN SDGs. In Iceland, we're so lucky to have a government that fiercely implements structures to help us on the path of gender equality. And I'm going to name a few vital decisions that helped us. First of all, substitute daycare from early age. So we could put our toddlers to daycare. Women could get an education. They could keep their jobs, even though they had a family that included children. From the last year, 2021, we have equal maternal, paternal leave, 50-50. So 6 months for each parent, and we can interchange only 6 weeks, meaning that we're forcing everybody to participate in society. Equal pay laws, they have been installed for businesses and institutions on all levels, you know, big companies, small companies, and we're doing quite all right in the implementation. We have more women at the university, both in and out at the moment, so that is actually facilitating change. We do have a law of 40-60% genders in boards, and we've had those laws for more than a decade, but we're not close to showing the results. And I have to tell you, Anita, it's not a better scenario here because we have only one company listed on Nasdaq Iceland with a female CEO. We've got proudly 19 other companies with male CEOs. So the ratio it's like thick mud to change it. Corporate management teams, they do not have gender laws, and we really need to get laws because the gender ratio is nearly not good enough. We don't want the quotas, but we have to, because equality will not present itself by choice or chance. We have to facilitate the evolution of change, and we have to facilitate the action. And that's the main thing I was talking about before. To have the action, you have to lubricate it. We have the government pivotal. So they're up front in this evolution. And I would say that what is slowing private business down is actually the work contracts. So we have work contracts which are pretty locked in. So if you want to move people around, it's not that easy. We need to, and this is vital, I will tell you, women need to be where money flows, where the decisions are made, where power lies in organizations and in institutions. So you just think about all the energy that you're going to create if you have a mixed team on any level. It's a lubricant, it's a facilitator.
Thank you. It's always great to keep reminding ourselves of the importance of governmental policies in order to make things happen faster, maybe, and more equal for everybody. But I want us to get back to what happens within organizations and ask you, Anita, and I know it's a very cliché question about leadership, but I think we need to pause and reassess every once in a while on what leadership means in creating equal and diverse teams. And my question to you is, and I'm hoping a lot of leaders are here with us today, or future leaders, what do we need as leaders to be in front and together with an equal and diverse team? What are the attributes? What are the characteristics, maybe?
I think, first of all, understanding that we need to capitalize on all talents. This goes for all of Europe. It goes for Norway, the Scandinavian countries, it goes for UK, because Europe is not that big and we are in a big economical transformation. So if we're going to be successful running into the sixth innovation wave, which is the green wave or the sustainability wave, we have to capitalize on all talents, and we're not doing that. Not in private sector, nor in research and other institution. The only area where we have a higher balance between men and women is in many countries in politics because of the quota. And I completely agree with Sigrid that to really make a change and a difference and a statement, you need also to have some bold tools that really drives us into that. And I hear a lot of people saying that, well, Anita, you became the CEO. Why can't women just do it? That it's the women's fault that we don't step up and do it. And I would say that's a very easy thing to say. I do agree that this is also on a personal level, because becoming a CEO or choosing the leadership path is a personal decision. It is a deep personal decision. And that also means the way you want to act as a leader, understanding diversity, understanding an agenda that is a little bit bigger than getting the revenue in and exactly running your company, but having the broad societal perspective too, I think will be mandatory for future leaders. I don't think that leaders in the future can only concern about the bottom line, the blue bottom line. They have to be concerned about the green, the red, and the blue. And diversity will be key here. So I think first of all, it's a personal choice. Do you want to be an administrator or do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be part of changing things, or do you want to be part of controlling an administrative kind of leader? And if you choose the leadership and not the administration, I think it is in your mandate to make sure that power is distributed in a different way. And this is why I think it's so important what Sigrid says. This is also about distribution of power. That is why women also, I mean, look at who's running running the power and who has access to power. It is distributed within a very small group of people, and they're mainly men. And I haven't seen any research saying that there's a difference between how men or women can distribute or can deal with power. There shouldn't be any changes. So it has to start with you. You making a personal decision that you want to go all the way. Because it is, again, like Sigrid says, role models. Research says that role models is really key. I don't say it's the only solution that every one of us steps up. No, but we have to apply for the jobs. We have to apply for the jobs even though we are uncertain that can we meet the objectives. Is there areas that we're not really good at? We do not apply. While men, they look at it as, okay, I can deliver 40% of this, so then I will apply. So I would encourage much more women to have an outspoken ambition saying, I would like to pursue the leadership path. And this is the way I'm going to do it because I want to be part of changing things.
Anita, if I may ask you on top of what you have been saying, yes, it's great to have an outspoken ambition, but how do we ensure that I have my outspoken ambition and even though I don't think I fit into the requirements, I apply for the job, but how do we ensure that there will be an equal and diverse hiring and promotion strategy? So I'm wondering if one of the bold tools, and this is my question to you, one of the bold tools that you mentioned that we need is training within the company. So training the HR executives, training the leadership team to be truly and authentically committed to diversity and equality. And if training is one of those bold tools, who needs to get trained and on what?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Training and leadership is underestimated, and the tone is set by the top. If the CEO and the top management group outsource this to HR, it's wrong. The CEO and the top management group needs to have a bold statement on what they really mean. And what's their philosophy and why is diversity important for them? And they will be measured by their actions, not by their words. So those companies who have an outspoken philosophy around this will also attract more female candidates, because we choose which kind of companies we want to apply to. So if that's a company who's not open for new thinking, who do not provide training on leadership, do you want to work there? You know, there's a lot of new companies coming up and they have different perspectives on this. So I think training specifically on leadership, you would never set me in a situation where I should build a bridge in Greece, right? Because I'm not an engineer. We do not have the same understanding for leadership as a subject. You can actually become a doctorate, a professor in leadership. While in leadership, we put people on the top, they have no training, they're really good maybe in some of their subjects, but they haven't been trained or they haven't been studying leadership. You can study leadership. So I would highly recommend that if you are here on the conference and you want to pursue a leadership career, I would really encourage you to take classes to educate yourself all the way. I'm still at the age of 50 now taking a new master's program, because this is a subject where you have to keep updated all the time. There is no such thing as a perfect leadership. It doesn't exist.
Thank you for that. And Sigridur, I want to add on what Anita has been saying and ask you about skills and you know, trainings that we think that we need to include in gender equality programs or generally initiatives. We hear a lot about people talking about how we as women, we have, you know, empathy as a skill and active listening as a skill, and we're more emotional. So that, and we are better at connecting with people, so that makes us better, maybe at some points, at leading teams. So I want to ask, first of all, this is also a very personal interest of mine. So what do you think on that? What's your take on this? Is it true, or is it you know, a stereotype on gender attributed characteristics?
Okay, so I'm going to mess up the fireside chat because I wanted to add one thing to Anita's point.
Do that. Go ahead.
It is a chat, you know.
Yes, exactly.
It's a dialogue.
Yes.
It is the responsibility of the business owners that, as Anita was mentioning, to attract future leaders and to make future leaders, okay? I remember when I was younger than I was today. I'm pretty old. And I had twins, small twins, and I was in a middle management position, and it was an international company, and they had regular meetings with, we didn't have Teams, we didn't have the computers, we had to be there, you know, on site. They had regular meetings in evenings. That meant for me that I had to go someplace and leave my children, 2 children, young children, and stay with a bunch of people, you know, and it was overtime. All this could have been done at 12 o'clock at noon or within the workday. And we're talking about real solutions here, okay, that are supporting what we're doing for us and for the business and for families. So you have to not only think about yourself, you have to think about what kind of community is this business offering? Because I just made a new office at my place, and I sacrificed a whole room for a gym because I really didn't want people to go to another place for a gym. We can do workout half an hour before work at noon just before leaving home, etc. So I just wanted to add that to Anita, that we can actually do a lot of things as businesses to facilitate the leadership training, okay?
Thank you.
To answer, now I'm going back on track, to answer the empathetic question or the gender stereotype, in my opinion, we should all be allowed to be ourselves in our societies, regardless of demographics as age, gender, origin, and demanding people to be anything other than the authentic self for the sake of work or work-related issues, structures, or functions, when they're actually trying to maneuver the role of a manager, director, or leader, it would be first robbing people of their true identity. And we badly need true identities and voices to shine through. And this is for diversity purposes, but also for invention to take place and facilitate the process of change. Because different perspectives coming through different voices give us growth and learning. Growth and learning, those are ingredients that we badly need to solve the pressing issues of our era. Genders, they do not need to conform into similarity. You know, everybody thinking and behaving the same way in order to succeed or thrive, evolve, or whatever you're trying to achieve or measure you by. A hammer is a hammer wherever you go in the world. Science is genderless as well. And it's an integral part of our daily lives. So why would we choose to hinder or stall this progress with characteristics that divide us? Instead of, we should be grateful for being different, diverse, and really focusing on being thankful for what unites us, you know, flip it around.
Thank you for that. We will keep all this advice and insights. And Anita, coming back to you, and actually I would love to ask both of you the same question. So we mentioned training and other bold tools. I'm keeping the bold tools phrase as well. In Women on Top, we think that mentoring is a very powerful and impactful tool for the empowerment and the professional advancement of women. And I would love to have your thoughts on this, and starting from you, Anita, and if you have a personal story to share, whether you have had a mentor and how has this supported your career and your advancement, if you want to share.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Mentorship is key. I've had mentors since I started working for IBM as a trainee 25 years ago. And you don't need to have one mentor the rest of your life. You can have several because you are going to grow in your career. So having contact with several mentors is really important. And I can tell you about the time where I got my first kind of hand-picked mentor, because very often companies, they have structured mentor programs. I think that is good, so you can be introduced to what mentorship is, but you very often, you know, having a mentor in the same company, I think it's really valuable having a mentor outside of the company that you're working in. My tip to you is that there's a lot of retired business people. They have time and they have perspectives and they have network and they have a lot of learnings. And they would be, my experience is that they would be genuinely interested in discussing the topics that you want to discuss with the mentors. Because trying to go out and ask an operative CEO to become your mentor while they need to run their company, they have a family, it doesn't give you much time to talk to them. So it's an underestimated if you go to the seniors. Well, in Norway, mentoring is what we call omvendt mentoring. It's not the senior listening to the junior or vice versa. It's a 360-degree relationship. The interest for the senior to get to know the younger person, it should be equal. It's not like the old one telling the young one what to do to be successful. I think that is key. So I found my mentor. This is many years ago. I was working for the Norske Veritas, and And I was looking at making strategy as a handcraft. And then, at least in Norway, you could also take a master programs in understanding corporate values and how to create boards, which was a really good program. And then I thought, it's not enough to understand the academics behind this. I need to get to know, one of the men from the men's club, understanding what happens around all the unofficial things around a table. Where do you sit? How do people choose each other? What should I take as a salary? What kind of questions should I ask the election committee before I say yes? I mean, a lot of these practical things that we don't really know when we're young or new to this. So I saw this former CEO of Statoil. He was really working on corporate governance rules at the Oslo Stock Exchange. So I just sent him an email, very short email, just saying, this is my name, and I would like to have 5 minutes conversation with you. And I didn't really think that he would answer me at all. Mm-hmm. But then he called back just a couple of days after, and then he said, this is Harald Norvik. What do you want? And I remember I was sweating. It's like, shit, he's calling me back. and then we agreed to have a meeting. And that was such a great meeting. Do not underestimate the power of trying. The only bad response you can get is no. Well, so what? You might get a yes. And we've had a mentor relationship for the past 20 years now. And it's really, really useful. I recommend all of you to have mentors. It's key.
I love how you're highlighting, and I think this is an advice that we can all take, that it not only takes an email that you can send to find a mentor or ask the practical questions, which are really, really important, and sometimes we don't admit that we have, like the example you mentioned, what questions do I ask before I enter a committee? So the practical questions are very important, but it also, I think it needs to stick with us, that it also takes us 5 minutes to reply to an email to someone who is seeking our mentorship and our advice and our guidance. So it only takes a little, Sigridur, what about you? What do you think on mentoring and the role models we discussed earlier? Just a brief answer, because I want to have time to ask you a couple of questions more.
Sure, I'll be quick. I think that both mentoring and cold calling are supportive methods. In FKA, we use a mentor program that is very well organized. We pair a mentor to a mentee. We use a speed date, so we have quick introductions, and then you request your mentor. I would have to talk to Anita and find her interesting, and then ask for her as a mentor. And we give them guidelines. We train them, both the mentor and the mentee, food for thought, how to manage the relationship. I have a handful of mentors as Anita, and they are different ages, genders, origins, and imperative in my development. As for cold calling, I really advocate people contacting other people. If they made an impression on you, even me, you can send me an email, and they think they can help. Just say, hi, I was struck by your talk. I thought this is interesting. Can you help me? And if you cannot help the person that is contacting you, try giving a name or two. Try passing the ball. Don't be a stop sign in anybody's life, okay? Try to push a person forward.
I love that. I love the not being a stop sign, and I think it's a very good advice to anyone who's leading teams or who's a member of a team, really. So again, a personal question, and you're both, and you have been in very high level positions, and you have been leading teams for years now. Is there, and we're also, we're always talking about about our achievements, but I want to hear also about your challenges. So what's a challenge you're facing right now? In relation to all the issues that we have been discussing, or if you want to share your biggest challenge so far. Anita, if you could take the question.
Yeah, I think my personal challenge, the 25 years that I've been working, and I have 3 daughters, is stepping out of the stereotype expectations of what kind of leader I should be, you know, and to be secure on the choices that I make, because I think it's quite dangerous when we have when we expect certain things from a female leader, you know, because if you don't fit that pattern, they don't understand how to deal with you, you know. So I think that took a little time to be secure, to do leadership in my way. And I was told when I was a trainee working for IBM, the instructors there said very early on that I was quite masculine. That was the feedback I got, and I believe he meant it as a compliment. But I was only 24 years old, and I was thinking, do I look like a man, or you know? But the point was, because I raised my hand, you know, I was eager in discussions. You know, I was not afraid of having discussions. I was pursuing sales. I was delivering numbers. I was talking about results. That was not very feminine. You know, you should develop other sides of your leadership. So I think that even in countries like Norway, where we have 50-50 sharing, I still feel the prejudice of the choices that have been made, you know, because you never be good enough anyhow, and you have to understand and make a personal choice that this is good enough for us and our family, and that's what matters. And I have this story from my short story from my youngest daughter. This was when I was getting the managing director position of Hewlett-Packard Norway. And Hewlett-Packard had never had female CEO ever before I became the female CEO. And then Milla, my youngest daughter, she was going to the kindergarten, and I was stressing her. I said, Milla, you have to hurry up because Mama is going to meet Hans, my new boss. And then she was only, you know, 3 years old, and she stopped and she said, Mama, can boys be bosses?
Wow.
And we don't want it to be like that, but I think, you know, it starts with what we see and what we experience at home and what kind of choices we make. Because her expectations, she was used to me as the leader. She never saw a male leader before.
So talk about role models, right?
Yeah, and I want to point out what Sigridur says, that you have to step out of the stereotype of what a female or male leadership is. It's per definition. I'd rather differentiate between, are you an administrator or are you a leader? And what kind of leadership and what kind of values do you want to bring to the table? And how you dress, how you look like. I mean, even being blonde in Norway as a CEO will give people a laugh because, you know, there are still premises that blonde bosses, you know, it's not only positive. So this exists all over the prejudices. And we have to just, you know, I think we should acknowledge that it exists and talk honestly about it. Because if I'm going to tell the young generation, this is so easy, it's only the way up, you can do this, and you will have no hard feelings about your children when you leave them, and, you know, it's hard
not like that.
Yeah, we have to be honest.
Thank you really for your honesty. Sigridur, what about you?
It's pretty similar. It took a bit of time to realize that being authentic, having faith in my message, and holding on and not losing grace and gratitude have been the biggest challenges. Other people and situations have not been the issue. It's been me, and me not complicating matters too much. So having a vision and a purpose, and in my case, I like to serve. I serve for the greater good, being a part of something bigger than myself. It has just led me gently through any scenarios. that have presented themselves to me. And not only as women, but as people, we are wise to remember not to be so hard on ourselves. Everybody's doing their best, or trying to. Everybody has a backpack on his shoulder, and we don't see backpacks. So we have to be kind, and we have to practice gratitude. Just be our authentic selves, saying and showing this is who I am and how I am, and the challenges they will minimize.
Thank you. I'll also keep the backpack concept. You have given me many concepts to think about throughout this discussion. We have about 4 minutes left, and I really want to finish off this very honest and I felt it a very authentic conversation with you two by asking you to not to wrap up what we have been saying, but really if there's one thing that you want the executives and the people and the leaders that are with us today or are watching us from their offices or from their homes, the one thing that you would love for them to keep from our discussion. Anita, which one would that be? I know we talked about a lot of things and I really enjoyed our conversation, so that would be a difficult question for me to answer, but that's why I'm giving it to you.
Absolutely. I think leaders with a purpose and like Sigurður says, with a mission of delivering more than the numbers for the exact company, they don't need a message. They get this, So I see a huge difference when I look at the younger generation, where they don't even have to talk about this at the same level as the seniors, I think if you want to be relevant as a company and you want to be relevant as a workplace, you have to have an outspoken vision of what kind of working culture and what kind of talents you want to attract. It's the only way you can deliver the numbers. It's by having diversity and being relevant and being chosen by the next generation leaders. If you're not being chosen by them, you will be bankrupt, So if you're outdated, that's going to be, the average time span a company survives now has gone from approximately 80 years to 14 years. So you have to take that war of talent seriously. I think for the right leaders, this is not an issue. And for those who don't think this is important, well, sorry, you're not the future. Sorry. I don't want to work for you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. What about you, Sigurður?
Walk the talk, talk the walk. You have to attract what you desire by doing it. And Mike said this perfectly, just do it. If you want to maneuver changes, I would advocate going for a walk in the nature. Because if you're trying to find creative solutions, how to get out of the box, you cannot be in the box called office, okay? So relax and don't push for it. You should flip it around, because pushing takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of focus and energy. But if you pull, you're attracting. It comes more naturally and it uses flow. It's a totally different kind of energy. As Anita said, it is going to come to you. Everybody's going to follow you. And take fun seriously. We should all be smiling on this, journey of equality. We shouldn't be crying about it or, hammering about it. We should be laughing and saying, how are we going to do this? This is fun. We're actually using, the top here, okay? So that is my, advice to you.
I really thank you so much for the advice, and I really wanted to close off with this advice, but because this is a chat and it's live, we have a question that I don't want to leave unanswered, but I will give one of you 1 minute to answer that, because it's really, really important. And Anita, you mentioned before about the burden of fitting in the pattern. I know I'm hearing the buzz of time, especially when there is no representation. So the question we have is, do we have anything to suggest for women of color? So if one of you wants to take about just 1 minute to answer this.
Yeah, don't stand by yourself. a lot of people say that leadership is a lonely thing. That's bullshit. It doesn't have to be lonely at the top at all. That's a personal choice if you don't involve and if you don't build a network where you can have discussions, where you can talk, whether it's about prejudices, whether it's color, whether it's the way you behave, if it's the background you have. Make sure that you have great people to discuss with that are different from you, because they will bring you perspectives, and they would, So I would say I have been collecting great colleagues over the past 25 years, and I think that's important. I have probably 15 great colleagues from different companies, and we've been having kept in dialogue for so many years. And we are there for each other, even though when we have reached the top, you have to understand who to trust or not. You have to learn the power games in business. And how do you learn that? I'm sorry, you don't learn that in school. You have to learn that in real life. And then you need to talk about with real people that can give you advices. So that's don't stand by yourself. Don't be alone. Don't go into a silo. Reach out.
Thank you. So we will be closing off with that. So, don't stand alone and be a part of a community or create a community. Thank you both so much for your time and energy and honest answers and insights. And we hope to have you soon here with us in Greece Live. Thank you. Ελπίζω να έτσι ευχαριστήκατε κι εσείς και να πήρατε πολύτιμες συμβουλές ή πράγματα να σκεφτείτε μετά από αυτή τη συζήτησή μας. Και θέλω να καλέσω στη σκηνή τη Στέλλα, την Κάζαγλη, να συνεχίσουμε το πρόγραμμα και τις συζητήσεις μας με ένα πολύ ενδιαφέρον θέμα. So I'm going to be saying this in English as well. We will continue with our first workshop discussion about a very important and bold tool on paternity, family leave, and what we can do inside the organizations and companies to support this measure and initiative. Thank you.